Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning with you. And we've got a fantastic panel lineup, some really interesting characters from the low-cost arena. And I'd like to invite the panel on stage, please. And I'll introduce these gentlemen once they're on the stage. Did everybody go to the function last night? Did you have a good evening? Was it a worthwhile evening, the drinks last night? Yes? No? Lots of nodding heads, so it must have been. I was at the Changi Airport Annual Service Excellence Awards, which was also a tremendous function. Okay. Seatbelts on. Doors to manual. Cross-check. Okay. So we've got a very distinguished panel here this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting airlines. So I'm looking forward to a great dialogue. We've been having a few conversations in the speakers' lounge, which have been very interesting already. And what I'm going to do is introduce the panel very briefly, say a few words about the state of LCCs and the region and aviation in general, actually. And then we'll kick off the panel. So from my left, Shyam Sundar is the CEO of Air India Express. And on his right is Captain Daniel Putut Kuncoro Addy, who is the Director of Business Development at Lion Air Group. And directly on my left, Barathan Pasupathi, who is the CEO of Jetstar Asia, and to all his friends, he's called Bara. And on my right, Piya Yodmani, the CEO of NokScoot, who had some very interesting insights at yesterday's panels. And then jet fresh from Taiwan, Kwan, who's the CEO of Tigerair Taiwan. Good morning, gentlemen. So aviation this year is a really big good news story because the reduction in the price of fuel is making the whole industry more profitable. Having said that, last year the average profit per passenger was a little bit over $3, or something between 1% and 2%, which is a very, very thin margin. This year we're looking at something like $7 per passenger in terms of an average profit. So it's a lot better than last year, but it's still only about 3% margin. So margins are still very thin. And in that number, there are a lot of regional differences. So the airlines that are doing really well today are the airlines in North America. But here in Asia, we've seen an astonishing transformation in the last 10 years with the emergence of the LCCs. And basically, we've seen three big groups emerge, and we've got two of them here today, Lion Air Group and Jetstar Asia, and the third one is AirAsia. And as well as these big groups, each operating over 100 aircraft, we've got a lot of smaller players and interesting dynamics, low-cost long-haul, ultra-low-cost, lower-cost. I don't know what you're going to call all these airlines. And we were talking yesterday about what's the right terminology for low-cost or new model or hybrid. I don't know what it is. But one thing we can be sure of is that the growth will continue. When we look at the order books, 4 out of the 5 largest orders are low-cost carriers. So the mother of them all is really Lion Air, with now, I just learnt, over 700 aircraft on order, which is incredible. We've also got Indigo with the largest single order. I think it was 540 aircraft. Well, 420. Okay, amazing. So 4 out of the 5 largest order books in Asia Pacific are with low-cost carriers. So growth is very much set to continue. Okay, we've talked about the sort of terminology and what is low cost. I'm not sure. I don't know if you are. And what I wanted to ask the panel in turn was, what kind of an airline are you? And tell us a little bit about your airline. So I wanted to start with Shyam, Air India Express. Let me know, what kind of an airline are you, and what do you do differently? Is that working? Take this one.
Hello, good morning to everyone. As he introduced me, I am Shyam Sundar, CEO of Air India Express, and Air India Express follows a very specific strategy of operating only international flights on the low-cost model to markets which are within about 4.5 hours away from some point in India. It is unique in the respect that low-cost domestic market in India is growing at the rate of about 10%, and we have kind of consciously stayed away from that. And the reasons for that is, of course, our parent company, Air India, has a lot of domestic presence, and we are still to work out the strategy in terms of how will we complement each other on the routes that we serve. Having said that, there is also the fact that there are a lot of taxes on fuel, especially for domestic operators. We're quite happy we're not in that market right now. One of the cornerstones of our policy has been to stay and operate from Tier 2 cities into big markets in Asia, in Gulf and in Southeast Asia. Today we are looking at doubling our fleet from 17 aircraft at this time to 36 aircraft in a period of 3 years from now. And thankfully, the growth prospects in the Indian market, India-Asia market, is really encouraging. We're looking at a growth of at the rate of 10 to 12%, which is significantly high. And therefore, we are thinking that we don't have major stumbling blocks to the growth that we are planning. Air India Express, of course, will never aspire to offer a seat as what I'm sitting on right now. We have a clear strategy of keeping the low-cost model, sticking to it as far as we can. And it served us well, and I don't see why we should change now in the short term. Thank you.
Thank you, Shyam.
Well, Lion Air started from a travel agent in 1998, which is we have a lot of passengers for Indonesian market. And 1999, we're thinking of why don't we buy an aircraft? And then in 2000, the dream has come true. We buy only one 737 Classics, and with these models of aircraft, we still not consider as what kind of business that we will run. So we still didn't know any models, low cost or legacy cars or whatever. So then we start with a very good business with only one aircraft. It started 2001. We have a very cheap aircraft from Russia, Yak-42, and again that make a good business with that. And with the new, actually in the United States, as you know, that 2001 after the bomb blasting in the United States, the aviation in the United States is going down, and the aircraft is very cheap. And we have MD-80. Very cheap aircraft. We run it with a very cheap price, and we started with this MD-80. We have around 6 MD-80, and until 2004, then we considered to make people fly, and yes, then we considered to thinking of how to make them fly in the cheapest way, And then we look at Southwest Airlines in the United States. We learn from that, the biggest low-cost carrier in the United States. Then, okay, we run these models until, and 2007, our first order of a Boeing 737 NGs, and at the first time we ordered around 60, but the business is good, and we make another order for 178, and now we have a confirmed order for 725 aircraft from Airbus and the Boeing. But again, that now our strategy is not only to give the people fly with the cheapest way, but now we have to thinking of as a passenger, as a people. We want the cheapest way, we want the comfort way, we want the safest way, and we also want the everything that the people want. So started in 2013, we developed new models of airlines, Tigerair, which is under subsidiary of Lion Air, as a legacy airlines in Indonesia. And also again, that as you know that, again, slot is a very big issue in our country. Indonesia, they have 250 million population, 17,000 islands, still need the aviation industry, but the slot is not there. The infrastructure is far behind us. So why then we consider to have our own infrastructure? We will build our own airport, we build our own hangar, and we build our own academy as to be ready to face all the market and the economic growth in Indonesia. Currently, we have around 150 aircraft spread on Malaysia as a Malindo, and also in Thailand as a Thai Lion. And Indonesia itself, we have Lion Air, Tigerair, and Wings Air. And we also run a business jet, 2 Hawker 900 business jet aircraft. This is Lion Air currently. Thank you very much.
Thanks for it. Can we get these to work? Thank you. This one works. That's a fantastic story, Daniel. Thank you very much for that. And it's amazing what's just recently happened. We've got a new government in Indonesia, and the new minister has stopped the sale of air tickets at airports. I mean, how extraordinary is that? So Lion Air have achieved remarkable growth in a very difficult environment, and I congratulate them on that. But moving on now, Bara, Jetstar, 10 years.
Thank you. Conrad, first I'd like to address Conrad's question before I talk about Jetstar. We are coming to 10 years of flying at Jetstar. We are celebrating 10 years of flying in Singapore. You touched on you're spot on, Conrad. 10 years ago, when LCCs were just starting out in Singapore, there was almost virtually zero traffic. With Jetstar and the other peers coming on board today, Changi enjoys close to 37 to 38% of capacity growth in the airport is stimulated by low-cost carriers. Now, I'll take your question head-on as to what kind of low-cost airline or what kind of airline Jetstar is. I can tell you what, at Jetstar we are very clear that we are a very customer-centric airline. We, first and foremost, put the customer's experiences and our drive to delight the customer throughout the whole customer journey as number one. Of course, that precedes safety as a number one priority. Following that, it is then very interesting to see what has happened in the aviation landscape. We all know Ryanair. We even know Michael O'Leary now coming up to say that you have to serve your customers. Let me tell you what, when you understand your customer and you know who your customer is, you realize that we are a very diverse melting pot in Asia where our customers have enjoyed service. Our customers have been schooled to witness a smile on board the aircraft. So when I take that on board, I can tell you that the low-cost model in Asia has evolved. It's evolved over time the last 10 years. I have seen it firsthand. My colleagues here who have been here 10 years with me have seen it firsthand. When every low-cost airline was being set up in Asia, everyone is trying to emulate the Ryanair model. But no 5 fingers are the same. Each market is different, and each market's customers are very different. And when I take that on board, what did we try to do 10 years ago? We tried to make sure that we all were focused on operational performances and metrics, not net promoter scores or customer experiences. We made sure that we only flew O&D basis, origin and destination. None of the LCCs even contemplated fifth freedom flying. And we all said no. We said no to working with other airlines and partners. But one thing that most of us did is we kept to the basics of low-cost carriers, is keep your costs low to give the customers the advantage of enjoying everyday low fares. That's the motto at Jetstar, and we've done it well by having a single fleet configuration across the different brands. You'll see a couple of slides here. This one talks about how at Jetstar we put the customers at the heart of our business, and then we adapt. I tell you what, I've defined what low-cost carriers definition was, right? Single aircraft type, O&D basis, no interline and code share. I will tell you where we are so different today in the market, where it is raising the eyebrows of the market to say that, look, this is an airline that understands its markets and customers, and we have to emulate this. Today at Jetstar, I'm very proud to say, coming into 10 years of flying, we have got more than 6 brands across the markets. We have flown more than 130 million customers to date and growing. We have got more than 114 aircraft across the networks. And we also have 8 787s today on board the network. Now, what we have done over the time is we have evolved from a typical LCC model to be one that is very customer-centric, in which, by putting the customers at the heart, we have changed to say that service is a very important priority of the business. When a customer is a low-cost customer, it doesn't matter if it's a full-service customer or low-cost customer, we give them the same service. Of course, the product is different, and they understand what they're buying into, but we serve them well. And when we serve them well, we focus on net promoter scores, NPS, on-time reliability. We are pleased to say that we have won a number of awards, not because we're chasing the awards, but we are chasing on delivering the best service to the customers. Then I talked about the typical low-cost model being O&D basis. We were the first LCC to deploy fifth freedom flying. We took on fifth freedom flying because of the point that is being mentioned, slots congestion. We didn't want to leave aircraft time idle. We're working on aircraft very hard. When I say fifth freedom flying, we fly our assets, beautiful A320s to Taipei, to Manila, and even Bangkok, and then we connect on to Japan. Now, you tell me, I mean, there's so many experts out there in this audience, you know how much that utilizes the aircraft. And then we also opened up our markets beyond Singapore and reach out to Thailand and Japan. In the other case, on Taipei and Manila, reach out to Manila and Taipei into Japan. And we have a growing, budding airline in Jetstar Japan. Our customers then connect across the network. So we have been connecting the dots across all the markets, and we've been doing a great job at it. The final point I want to share is the typical LCC models doesn't work with partners. And I'm pleased to say that at Jetstar, we have got more than 32 interline and code share partners. I was talking to at an event yesterday, you were there, Conrad, and someone asking, hey, Bara, you know, do you believe in working in code share and interlines? I said, of course we do. Why? Look at Singapore. We have a population of only 5.5 million residents in this country, but the airport handles 52 million capacity. They're not coming from Singapore. No Singaporean travels 10 times, I can tell you that. I don't get enough leave to do that. And so when that happens, you ask yourself, you have got world-class full-service carriers coming into Singapore. When they come into Singapore, they can't reach thin markets. They can't reach thin markets, so they look out for great, credible airline partners to work with. And I'm pleased to announce here today, you'll hear a press release coming out this afternoon. On top of our initial code share partner, Qantas, as a Qantas group and Jetstar group, we then leveraged the Emirates partnership 18 months ago. That has grown phenomenally. On the back of the partnerships, Emirates even added another fifth a wide-body flight into Singapore to move into narrow markets, and we are filling our aircraft. We are filling our aircraft. We are providing the service that is expected of the full-service carriers. Someone was asking me, how do you manage this? Singapore is a very efficient hub. The airports facilitates that. And today, I'm also very pleased to announce Sri Lankan. This afternoon will be announced as a new codeshare partner. They have 3 narrow-body services from Colombo into Singapore. And then we connect the Sri Lankan partners right now to 7 regulatory-approved destinations, plus 3 more on the works. So by doing that, we are reaching beyond the markets and customer base to widen the pool or catchment area. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Very, very interesting. And what's amazing in the Southeast Asia area is that in the last 8 years, the market share of the low-cost carriers has gone from something like 20% up to over 50%. It's been an amazing achievement. And very interesting to see that the low-cost market is evolving, using really lower cost, lower prices, but also this partnership model, interlining, intralining, and with other alliances and airline partners. Very, very interesting. NokScoot, Piya, can you tell us a little bit about long-haul low-cost?
Okay. NokScoot, maybe some of us was not here yesterday. It's a joint venture between Scoot and NokAir. I think NokAir, everybody heard of Pasupathi. He's always here. He cannot be here, so he asked me to be here. So we are going to do the medium haul. Maybe a lot of people believe it's work or don't work. We'll see. Then the question earlier was, are you low cost? I mean, I get asked all the time. I said, what do you want the answer? If you want to be yes, it's yes. If you want to be no, it's no. So who knows what the definition, are there any definition of low cost? No, I don't think it's it anywhere. But the thing, it's about now the airline is no fixed rules, whatever. You have to really look at the customers and the people that you are gonna be carrying and how they gonna be love your airline. So there's a mix of different things. Obviously, we want to get the cost to the lowest, but also have to look at the customer to how much they appreciate the things that you put into the service and all of this. But so everyone will try to find the positionings of their products, and I don't know what's the definition that we will call, but anyhow, the people who judge they like or not is the customers. Okay, so NokAir, where people said you're giving drinks and foods, little snacks out. That's not low cost. I said, yes, we started off not giving anything, but being in Thailand and the passengers is 90-something% Thai, and Thai is known for the hospitality country. They expect this little water of this, so we better do it. We cannot really, but we lost a lot of in-flight sales, but it comes back. So the question is really nowadays it's not simple airline. You can't copy from anyone. You have to really look at them and see how is really you want to run an airline or the customer that you want. So it have to be different. So each one will have their own segment. Cannot be simply the same.
Thank you. And now Kwan, if we can hear from you. Thank you.
All right. Firstly, good morning all. I always have this thing that, it's always nice to be back in this kind of conferences. Always nice to meet up with old friends. I started the aviation, commercial aviation with Jetstar during the startup phase with Barathan. So that's 10 years ago. And my experience really in the last 10 years is I have been in 4 airlines, and I never had the privilege of working with a full service airline, so it's all low cost. So when Conrad told me that when you get on stage, the most comfortable seats are the bigger ones, I said, well, I'm kind of at home sitting where I am right now. So this is my comfort zone. So so that's where I am. Tigerair, Taiwan, for those who might not be very familiar with, we are part of the Tigerair group. We started last year. We are only 4.5 months old. We launched the airline in September last year after we got our AOC. We have 2 aircraft right now, picking up the 3rd one next month. The good thing about sitting in Taiwan is that we are actually kind of the last frontier where low-cost operations exist. Like what Conrad has said is that the penetration of low-cost carriers in the southeast is sitting at about 58% right now. In the northeast, we are now at about 12%, and that's where the growth is. So that's where the excitement is right now in terms of LCC growth. Taiwan itself, I think, is a fantastic opportunity. The Taiwan LCC penetration is only 8.5%. It started off with, kind of a 0 10 years ago. I believe Jetstar ratio was one of the first low-cost carrier that went to Taiwan. And today, the growth is only 8.5%. Although there are 15 low-cost carriers operating in and out of Taiwan, but Taiwan today has only got 2 LCCs. We are the first, and VR, my competitor, I think Mike Koopman is here, a very good friend again. We all started in Jetstar. They started in December. So in a sense, from the opportunity point of view, it's a fantastic opportunity. Our focus is the Northeast Asia that allow us to develop the Korean, Japan, China sector, and linking up with the Tigerair group in Singapore. So if you look at the Tiger website today, you will see that there are 40 destinations that you can actually pick to choose to go from Singapore and Taipei. But the vacuum in that web page are the destinations in Japan, Korea, and the northern part of China. So that is where we fit in. So this is where the strategy of the group dynamics come in. When I said I mean Tigerair Taiwan is actually 90% owned by China Airlines. It is a joint venture with Tigerair Singapore. Tigerair Singapore owns 10%. The advantage that we have is that the branding itself is well established, is tested, is reliable, and that's the reason why it allows us to actually be able to grow very fast, very quickly, without having to relearn from everyone else. So that is where I think we sit at the present moment. How different are we? Well, we are LCC. I wouldn't say that we are ultra LCC. Like Bara said, I think most LCC are very customer centric. I think the difference between what we are doing right now in Tigerair Taiwan is that we are a startup. I am actually very much into safety-centric. Now, the reason I say that is that there is actually no difference between a traditional airline and a low-cost carrier in terms of safety management. My mission statement is safety first. Although, yes, I think customer, centric is important. Definitely it is from a low-cost perspective. If you want low-cost base, I think that is where, a true low-cost should be focusing on. My focus, in a sense, is really on, I think, safety first. That is where we believe in it. We believe in investing in people. We believe in investing in the safety program, and that is what I think the whole safety management system is all about in aviation. Where we get the cost-based savings, we are luckier in the sense that we are sitting in Taiwan. We can leverage on certainly a very low-cost base in terms of resources versus the other Asian countries. We have fantastic partners. I think that's where we leverage on. Partners who believe in the business, partner who knows the business, and partner who is willing to take the risk with us to go for long-term benefits. One of my very good partner over here, my duty-free partner, Sandoras, they actually are are one of the best partners that we can get in terms of helping us to reduce the cost base. We have a fantastic program right from day one. So these are ways where we can bring the cost base down, at the same time compete with the other low-cost carriers and invest in what we believe in the areas that we believe is the most important, and that is in flight safety areas. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwan. That's very, very interesting, and really what we've heard is that the market is very much evolving, and it's really doing what the customer wants, but meanwhile maintaining the lowest possible cost base, and that seems to be coming through from all of the panelists. What I'd like to talk about now is safety. And Kwan, you mentioned this because, of course, the recent TransAsia incident in Taipei, I'm sure, is very much on your mind. In fact, flying is safer than ever before. We operate about 100,000 flights around the world every day. And the way we measure safety is we look at the number of hull losses per million flights. And in 2009, you flew 1.5 million flights, and there would be one hull loss, one loss of an aircraft. So 1.5 million flights, one loss. In 2013, it's 2.4 million flights before a loss. So it's a very significant improvement. And in 2014, the numbers are usually published at the end of this month, but we know that they're even better than they were in 2013. So aviation safety is consistently improving statistically. The issue in Southeast Asia is that we've had so much coverage of the terrible tragedies with MH370, MH17, which wasn't an accident, it was a terrorist act, and of course the AirAsia flight. We've had so much media discussion of these incidents that safety, people have really questioned whether flying is safe or not. So we were talking about this earlier and saying that safety is something that's on everybody's minds. I mean, everybody aims towards 0 accidents and 0 fatalities. But what could we and what should we be doing to ensure that there are fewer and fewer accidents every year? So I wanted to pose that question to Kwan Yu. What could we be doing, what should we be doing to improve safety in our region?
Thanks, Conrad. I think that is a question that is in everybody's mind with the very unfortunate recent accidents involving the few airlines. I'm not really here to speculate what actually caused the accidents in Taiwan, particularly. I would really have to, agree with Conrad that 0 accident is achievable. It is something that I think every airline is working very hard at it. We have, I think, a very good safety management systems in terms of airlines that actually work very hard at. No airline would want to have an accident. I mean, any accident is just one accident too many. And I think a lot really has to do with whether you want to put the money where your mouth is, how much emphasis the airline plays on it. And I think regulators, on one hand, have a responsibility to ensure airlines do comply and conform with all the regulations. But end of the day, I believe it is really the airline that is accountable. You are accountable to your passengers, you are accountable to the public, and it's a question of how much emphasis you actually place on training and on investing the right people to manage what is most important to you. One of the things I'd like to thank the organizer is for fitting me in this morning at the last minute. I only came yesterday afternoon and said that, yep, I'm here and I'm available this morning. And the reason is because I was here actually to speak to a group of pilots, because I think that is an area where most airlines are kind of facing with the pilot shortage, trying to recruit as many as you could to match your fleet expansion. The group of pilots that I spoke with, and that I'm of course trying to interest them to join me, is from a very reputable airline, and I've made it very clear is that I'm here talking to you because I need you, and I need pilots who are well trained, good foundation, who have got a very good background and culture, and I was prepared to pay for their type rating. I told them I don't need even to bond you, and I think that was something that they were quite surprised, because I think from a low-cost carrier concept, I think most carriers do have some bond on the pilots to make sure that what they invest in is not wasted, especially when pilots are so mobile that they could just walk out on you the next day. But that group that I was talking to, I believe that if I treat them fairly and if I'm very fair to them with the terms, I think they will stay with me. And then that's the reason why I told them that, look, I can pay for your type rating, and I don't need to bond you. If you need to leave, it's fine. But I believe that there's a lot of mutual trust between the airline and the crew. So from that perspective, I think it is how much emphasis you really place on the people who is holding you, in terms of bringing you the best standards that the airline could get. So it's something which, again, if you are serious about it, put the money where your mouth is. That's my take.
Yeah, thank you, Kwan. I think that's absolutely right, and I think safety is the responsibility of all of the stakeholders in the industry. As you said, it's not just airlines, it's also regulators, it's airports, it's all of us, everybody in this room actually, because we want to have a situation where, as I say, we all aim towards zero fatalities and zero incidents. Talking about pilots, one of the issues for our region are these massive aircraft orders. As I said earlier, 700 over orders for Lion Air, 500 orders over for Indigo. Jetstar has a huge order book. How are we going to cope with all this growth? How are we going to find the pilots to operate these aircraft, the mechanics? Where are they all going to come from? How are we going to train them? Daniel, maybe I'd like to ask you that question.
Well, thank you, Conrad. I do agree with our growth need resources, especially in the pilot. Currently in Indonesia, we only have a few flying schools that can provide the pilot for our company, because Indonesia now have around 17 airlines that still need pilots. And in Lion Air, how to handle this issue? So we built our own facilities, started from the flying school until the advanced training center. We built our own flying school in some particular city in Indonesia, one in Cirebon and one in Palangkaraya in Borneo. And we graduate around 90 pilots in a year. This is not enough. Currently, we still need a pilot. So we have around 300 pilots expatriate now working with the Lion Group. And we have around 1,100 pilots totally in Lion Air. But still not enough. We're still thinking of how to make a pilot. And then we still consider to sit together with some pilot provider and also flying school around the world that we offering them that we have good flying hours to be flown as a pilot. They only need flying hours because especially for young pilot, my background is a pilot, 30 years, and still flying 747 till now. And the young pilot everywhere in the world, they still need hours, and we can provide hours. So it interests to some pilot around the globe, and they come to us, and from the young pilot, only few flying hours, and now they're gaining a lot of hours, 1,000 hours within 1.5 years, and they're quite happy. This is what we're offering to the pilot. And also we sit together with Airbus Academy. We will build our Airbus Aviation Academy in Jakarta, close to Jakarta, actually out of Jakarta. And we also provide maintenance training, technical training, and also the ground staff training. So we have 25,000 employees currently for the Lion Group. And as we know that we can run this company good with good training, with good resources. This is our concerns.
Thank you, Daniel. So really, it's a combination of doing it yourself and then pulling on sort of international resources where you can to meet your requirement. Very interesting. Talking about international resources, I wanted to ask one of the panelists about the Gulf carriers. They've made a huge incursion into this area, and they've taken a lot of market share very, very successfully. Talking to one of the panelists last night, and he said that one of the Gulf carriers is the best premium service carrier in the world, and it's also the best low-cost carrier in the world, which I thought was quite an interesting juxtaposition, but I can't reveal who told me that because he said he wanted to remain anonymous. But Shyam, you're actually in India and you're flying significantly to the Gulf. How are you competing with the Gulf carriers?
There are a few advantages that we have as India Express and as Indian carrier. First and foremost, a lot of the traffic is actually Indian. On the India Gulf, we have a huge expat population, which is our core market segment. And there is a partiality for an Indian carrier, which is a big thing. Number two, the carriers you have in mind and I have in mind have other fish to fry. So they're not entirely focused on providing what this market segment needs, because that is a large enough market segment at this time for Air India Express to be engaged with. And we tailor-make our product to exactly suit an in and out traffic, rather than being confused with having to take some of them onward to some other place. That's a distraction we don't have. Then the third thing is, of course, despite being a low-cost carrier, as one of the gentlemen on the panel mentioned, we provide a free meal service. We find that it makes sense. It gains us more revenue than the cost. So ultimately, we are providing almost the same service, because in the economy class, we're talking about basically that, our seat configuration is just as comfortable as any of those full-service carriers who are quite threateningly large in that region. So therefore, in terms of convenience, there's give or take nothing. The other issue is that our ability to move. India, as you know, is a very large country with a whole lot of cities growing at tremendous pace. So since we are absolutely focused on avoiding Bombay and Delhi and moving to those cities like Bhubaneswar, Vizag, a whole number of cities, Varanasi, there is a lot of prospect for growth for an Indian carrier. So therefore, the Gulf carriers, they do a very good business, but we are not overly worried about it. We'd rather be worried about the growing Indian domestic LCCs, where they are being unshackled by the more liberal dispensation from the government. And I think we would need to be more worried about that rather than what the Gulf carriers do to us. But then we are in a happy situation.
That's very, very interesting. So really, you're tailoring, you're going for a different market, and you've got different concerns rather than the Gulf carriers. That's very. And what is it? 16. I was talking to Suresh from AirAsia India, and he was telling me there are 16 million passengers a day on the train system. So if you can get a few of those to fly, there's an enormous market there. Absolutely. So there's plenty to go around.
I think so. And as long as our objective is to give value for money, and that always wins, I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Barra, I'd be interested for your insights on this, especially from a perspective of a sort of long-term, long-haul, low-cost carrier. Interesting insights about the markets and how long-haul, low-cost works from the experience of Jetstar Group.
Thank you, Conrad. Before I talk about the long-haul, low-cost model, I just want to echo some of the panelists' comments and where Jetstar stands aligned with them. I know Kwan, you brought up some great points on safety. At Jetstar, safety is our #1 priority. And on top of the regulatory requirements of audits, we are actually IOSA certified. We are IOSA certified. Many people have asked me the question, why does Jetstar Australia and Jetstar Asia seek IOSA certification? We take on board a lot of full-service passengers. We want to give the full-service carriers the assurance that when they come to us, we have the same level of accreditation just other full-service carriers has. And so safety is a #1 priority at Jetstar. Now, Kwani brought a good point about pilots and safety. At Jetstar, our safety values echo across the organization. It's not only a safety management system, it is not only about training and standards, it's the culture. It's the culture. To us, safety is as important as me as it is to every single frontline team member at Jetstar. That includes the ground handlers, our extension of our outsourced providers as well. They all follow the same values we have on safety. And so it's very important as aviation community and professionals to ensure that when you run an airline, we are responsible for customers. And so the safety value has to go across the whole business and be understood. Captain Daniel brought about a good point about pilots and training. And I find that we have a remarkable set of pilots. Yes, we need to get the training and standards right. We need to get the hygiene factors in the business right, addressing the hours, addressing the rostering. Pilots are very unique, talented individuals. But then again, they are also brilliant. One of the things we have done with pilots is that we have actually given our pilots the drive to drive fuel-saving initiatives. And I'm pleased to say that our pilots in Jetstar, headed by one of our chief flying instructors, have delivered 1.7% of fuel savings. They have come out with amazing programs of flap-free landing, single-engine taxi out, AP usage when it's necessary, reducing loads, pushing on technology on the aircraft, reducing paperweight with Airbus and IATA. So they are an amazing bunch. So please, always deploy the talent you have in your pilot corps because they can deliver more than just fly. They're an amazing bunch. Coming back to the point you brought about on low cost, Conrad, the Jetstar Group is one of the front runners in long-haul low-cost model. Now, I have a personal confession to make. When I returned back from the Gulf to Singapore to take on the role of the CEO in Jetstar Asia, one of the first decisions I made in Jetstar Asia, together with the team, was to cancel. This is going to be a very provocative discussion. Cancel our plans to have a long-haul, low-cost hub in Singapore. We did that. And we did that, it was a very painful decision because prior to that, 9 months in, the 330s were being ready. Pilots actually were type rated on the 330s. And I came in together with the team, we looked at it, no, not in Singapore. Not in Singapore. We canceled it. And I had to go and speak to the regulators, and we had a lot of explaining to do. Why? Because this market in Singapore, you don't need a long-haul, low-cost model. Of course, we can debate that, and our projections showed us that it will be diabolical in terms of, you talked about a $3 passenger return last year being $7, but I can tell you all our shareholders are telling us, gentlemen on the board, we are still not returning enough capital back to the shareholders. So we analyzed it, we said no. But the Jetstar Group operates across the network one of the best and successful long-haul low-cost model, though not hubbed in Singapore, hubbed out of Australia. It reaches very unique markets that are underserviced by full-service carriers. I'll give you a couple of great examples. Honolulu, Australia, Honolulu, fabulous market. Australia, Bali, fabulous market. Australia, Phuket, Australia, Japan. These markets are underserved. If you look at how we fly aircraft, you will clearly see that we take on very little full service competition. Why? You made a good comment. And the thing is that a lot of full service carriers today are having an issue filling up the loads. They are running at system-wide 68 to 72% load factors. You know, so many smart people out there, you can tell me, Bara, it doesn't break even. Even when fuel cost comes down, it doesn't break even. Maybe it helps to a certain extent, but it still doesn't break even. So we made it a point not to take a lot of full service carriers on routes to make it successful. The second thing we did is that we then looked at our aircraft type and said we needed to drive greater fuel savings, and we went on the Boeing 787s. We have now 8 787s in the unit as a group. We deploy them smartly. We make sure utilizations are appropriate for the aircraft in markets where we fly, and the fuel savings have been tremendous, tremendous. They deliver great savings. And the customer experience is also fabulous with the product. And some markets, you can also ask, you know, we made the painful decision of pulling out from Singapore, Auckland, right? Auckland, Singapore, Singapore, Auckland on a long-haul operation. But that was a very smart decision because we could see full-service carriers adding 35 to 40% capacities, which was irrational. Irrational, cannot be absorbed in the market. So we moved out of market. We continuously do that. You know, sometimes when we do that, analysts come up to us and say, "Oh, you guys are pulling out from the market." You know, it's not a good thing. But I say, we are commercial. We are airlines. We're responsible to our team members. We're responsible to our customers. And let's not forget the other triangulation. We have a responsibility to our shareholders. That's a primary importance because they fund the airlines. Now, certain markets we operate, Singapore, Melbourne, on a long-haul, low-cost model, supplements another factor in the business where we feed networks. Because we have got a 5 to 6 app, well, 5, 6 with Hong Kong on stream at the moment, we have a 5-hub operation. Our long-haul, low-cost model actually feeds from one market to another. We make sure the schedules are optimized. When they land in the early wave slots where they take on the morning flights of a sister Jetstar branded airline, and they feed into the system. By doing that, we give the systems, we open up markets for our customers. We open sum of sectors, we call it sum of sectors, between one sector to another and beyond. And that basically leverages from just O&D traffic, O&D traffic. I hope that explains. Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. I mean, it's not really a traditional low-cost model at all in the sort of traditional sense. Very, very interesting. Talking about distribution and innovation, I mean, one of the things that really characterizes this whole area is new ways of doing business. And it was very interesting, Piya, you were talking yesterday about distribution and really a practical approach to entering new markets. So your model is not selling direct necessarily. It's whatever suits the market. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, okay. Our experience in NokAir 10 years ago, well, yesterday I talked about this, that at that time people that have credit cards, about 2 million cards, and probably the rich man will have 3 cards and the rest would not have any cards. So the internet and booking on a website back 10 years ago, it will not work. So at that time, it's the start of the low cost, and if you are on the full service, you have to go to travel agent. You have to tell them, you know, you're going to travel on Tuesday. You're going to travel alone, and all of this. That's a complication. We said, how does people order pizza? How do they pay electricity bill? In each country, it's different. But we talk about Thailand at the time. We have to be fitting. The airline have to fit to their lifestyle and not their fitting to our rules, because we are gonna changing. We have to be serving each particular market. So it's important that each market is different. How do they spend their money, pay their bills and all of that, and you have to go and fit them. When we go somewhere now, we come back again, you'll be confused. Believe me, at NokAir and NokScoot also confused because I talk about 2 airlines all the time. Going in medium haul, when you first started, the brand It's maybe not as Jetstar, where there is another airline that's already there. You have to spend like 100 million, 200 million to launch the brand, maybe a bit too much, okay? And the volume of the frequency, the flight that you're putting in is not so many. So it's changing. You have to go on a hybrid, the end of the full service maybe first, and then building the brand. Of course, we want it to be B2C. We want people to do it themselves or their mobile and everything. But that have to be slowly coming. You don't do it too fast on the first day because your money, you will get burned. Okay. So each country may be different, but the agency and this, we already have it before. I don't know about Korean and other countries. We'll have to go and talk to the local people. How do they spend their life and how do we fit to them? Okay, but so it's different. But the basic website and credit card, it works in US and Europe, may not work around here. So we have to do fit to them.
Yeah, so the lesson is that you have to adapt your distribution to whatever suits a particular market. And there's a huge diversity within the Asia-Pac region. Yeah, very interesting. We've got about 5 minutes, and I'm wondering. I think we've been having very interesting comments and discussions from the panel. I'd like to thank them all. And I wonder whether there are any questions from the audience. So, do we have any questions from the audience about anything that's been said so far, or any observations or comments? I can't really see under the lights, but you have to stick your hand up if you want to say anything. Yeah, there's one there.
Good morning. My question is for Captain Daniel. Your decision to split your future fleet acquisition between Airbus and Boeing is certainly unusual, especially from an LCC point of view. What was the decision behind that, the motivation?
Yes, thank you. We're thinking of actually when we order a huge number of Boeing aircraft, and then we consider this a very good choices of Boeing 737 engines with more economic fuel efficiency, etc., etc. But after 5 years experience with this Boeing 737, again, that there is some issue, and there is always, technology is always developed and always on, and then the Airbus is also offering us the more cheap and the more fuel efficiency and more economic. So, but again, as you know that started 2013, we developed Batik Air as a legacy carriers in Indonesia. So we thinking of to use this more offering economical aircraft to use for legacy carriers. As we know that low-cost carrier, we have a lot of market, we have a lot of passengers, but the yield is not there. And the yield is how to make the yield rise up. Then we consider to make Aviation aircraft for the legacy carriers. Then we consider to have two kind of type of aircraft. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, it seems to me really what we've heard this morning. Oh, is there a question there? Oh, good, okay.
Hello, good morning. My friends all on stage, right? Barathan, this is Jack from West Air. Yeah, I have a question for you. I know maybe I should discuss with you separately after the panel, but since you are here, my question is that more and more LCC is launched from Asia. In China also, for last year, we have another 3 new LCC launched operations. So my question is that for you or for us, we have a challenge in the futures for the market because we know the market is there, but more competitive in the futures. So should we make an alliance or partnership, or we still work alone to compete with all other LCCs? These questions, I hope maybe we should learn some things from you. Thank you.
Jack, thanks. That is a very interesting question, intriguing too. If you look at the South Asian market, the Southeast Asian market, it's been very competitive. Daniel talked about yield. Because of a lack of discipline in terms of growing capacity in the markets, a lot of airlines went by the wayside, with challenged yields, and performance were impacted, and in the end, it's end game to them. I don't have to name a new, there's a couple in Indonesia that has gone through that, and there will be some airlines. If fuel didn't come off from 130 to 60, I think we would have seen more. We would have seen more. But the fuel price reduction has given the airlines at the wayside some reprieve in the market. But the day of reckoning is coming, and airlines don't adopt innovation and technology to improve the businesses and reduce the cost, that will happen. The alliance piece is very interesting. I touched on the topic of partnerships and alliances through codeshare and interline space, but I do believe there is a keen and acute angle where we should look at alliances across borders or across markets. Jetstar as a group, we work very well with our Jetstar branded airlines when we go from one market to another, but we're not represented in all markets. We are not represented. And there are some fantastic airline groups out here today in the conference as well, who are in some other markets but not represented in Singapore, Australia, or other markets. I can tell you that there's a lot of airlines who are looking for this mode of partnerships. Now, the word alliance is also very broad. What are we talking about? Are we talking about joint ventures? Are we talking about commercial arrangements? Are we talking about SPAs? Are we just talking about block seat arrangements? So the spectrum is wide. In that world, that model depends in different ways. Let me talk about our own experience, specific experience. When we entered Myanmar in 2006, we were no one in Myanmar. We were a budding airline from Singapore entering Myanmar. And for us to basically work in the market, we reached out to Myanmar Airways International. Myanmar Airways International has been flying the longest time to Singapore. And we started, without giving specifics of an arrangement, we started an arrangement, a partnership, and that has thrived through really tough times to make sure that we survived in the market, and today we have actually increased our capacity into those markets. Likewise, Jack, I'll be very keen to hear about West Air's plans in China as well. We are always, at Jetstar, we are always very open to partnership and alliances and working collaboratively with airlines when we can find a common alignment in terms of what we need to do. Thank you. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, please.
All right, I just want to add a point to what Barathan said about whether it's necessary to go on alliances. I think end of the day, what we are talking about is really how to control our cost base. I think that is where the key is. When Conrad and Barathan were talking about the lower fuel prices, I'm not smiling because for me I should be, because when I first started in September, the fuel price was 110 US a barrel, the jet fuel. In 4.5 months, I'm only paying about $70. So I should be the one smiling. But I'm not, because I'm waiting for the airport charges as well as the ground handlers who are still, I think, way above what they are charging the airlines. So I think that's where we need to work very hard on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think the time is probably up. Just looking to the side here to check. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Time is up. So thank you all very much. Thank you very much to Shyam, to Daniel, to Barathan, to Piya, and to Kwan. I think they've been fantastic panelists, and I hope you'll join me in giving them a huge round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen.